My name is Tonya Khoury, and this is this week's Acumen Media Report. It's entitled Xenophobia, the Great Diversion. Roll up, come and read all about it. Your weekly but never weak headlines filled with fun, fear, happiness, horror, astonishment, and a touch of tenacity. You can't beat satire mixed with cynicism, and I'm loaded with wares today. I'm peddling all sorts of stuff in my news jacket, and if I don't offload these hot goods soon, I might get collared. Don't you just love words? They make me so happy. I'm Tonya Khoury, and let's scratch the surface of my peddler's coat. The President's Q&A was an absolute farce. You have never watched Parliament quite like it. It was next level. Point of order became a chant rather than a request.
Point of order, Speaker. On you. On a point of order, Speaker, please.
No,
Please,
Honorable Malema. Point of order. I've ruled on the points of order now because the points of order are being used to disrupt us. Can you please stop now?
The EFF was so disruptive that it took an hour to hear the President's first answer to the questions posed. The behaviour was manic and appalling for Parliament. It was a belter of a fight. It was so bad that the chairperson completely lost the plot. She started screaming like a banshee at the House.
Take your seat, Tambo.
And she literally became hysterical. Malema, there are times when I love this man just for the comedy gold. Malema said calmly and succinctly, "Madam Speaker, would you like me to help you?"
We help you run the House, please.
But you know what you
Oh
did.
my word, I laughed. I laughed so hard, I snorted. Well, that's what you're meant to do in this situation, isn't it? Where a Zoom meeting completely runs rampant and all the people actually in the House physically are standing and chanting point of order. One of the biggest complaints is that not all members could be there physically. They were in a temporary building because you'll remember that Guy Fawkes Marfair burned Parliament down. It's going to cost $2 billion to build a new one, and guess what? No one took out insurance. Malema, I think I speak for the whole country when I say this. Sit in your home and join the Zoom call. I'm sorry you can't all chant together and make some more noise, and that you can't all exit together. I'm also certain that muting of mics is actually helpful. That might restore some order on a point of order. Anyway, regardless of virtual or not, some of the EFF members were removed and the show began. Ramaphosa left the Farmgate question with this: "There are legal processes underway, so I can't chat about that now."
It's for the law to take its own course.
This incensed the House, particularly the DA. Steenhuisen took advantage of his question time to quote horrific stats and then never asked a question. I did learn a lot though, and what I'm about to say is nasty as hell. 60,000 matrics are pregnant, and of those 60,000, at least 70% will be unemployed. Now you know why we have teenage pregnancy, don't you? At least when you have a child, you get the one grant system that works. We also have the highest fetal alcohol syndrome in the world. Yes, the highest fetal alcohol syndrome in the world. Nice one. Nice one, alcohol. You killed our mothers, our babies. You left the family unit drunk and destroyed by malice and quick tempers. Astaghfirullah, may we be forgiven for these dreadful sins. Back to the President's Q&A though, every person who spoke coherently had one request. and that was bring in the army. They called the army to intervene in the shenanigans that are going on underneath the xenophobic narrative. Some called for the SANDF to be stationed at hotspots and at state resources like railways and Eskom. Great idea. But the answer was no. And I don't understand why, Mr. President. Mr. President, if you think we are going to call you a dictator because you call in the army, we aren't. Not us, the voting public. You'll get that rhetoric on the opposition street or in a party Zoom waiting lobby, but not from us, sir. Please help us to fight back by merely protecting the little that we have. Keep listening if you dare.
Listen properly.
We are only scratching the surface here. You remember that Soweto tavern shooting? Well, it was done by a bunch of foreigners from SADC, Southern Africa Developing Countries. Individuals, not just from Zimbabwe, but from SADC countries. They all got in a taxi, drove to Soweto, and murdered a bunch of people. Disgusting diversion. How far are we going to push this xenophobic nonsense? And it is nonsense. You do understand that this rhetoric is just to divert our attention from the real story, right? Tell me you see it. The story of 2 billionaires fighting over our country. In case you missed it, and I'm sure you didn't, here's what's really going on. On the one side, we are force-fed Operation Dudula, a beautifully branded, T-shirt-wearing, glossy placard-holding set of vigilantes that want to get rid of foreigners. Whether they are legal or not is irrelevant. That's the narrative. The reason that they are at Kalafong Hospital having a scuffle with the EFF is because of those horrible comments made by Dr. Poppy. She said over the body of an ill Zimbabwean man that foreigners were to blame for poor service delivery in our hospital. This leaked video started a whole bouquet of political chaos on the ground. The EFF turned up. Well, they should, shouldn't they? I mean, the EFF preaches for a continent without borders. Let's be fair. Julius's votes are down. Easiest way to fix that, start a faction that does the opposite, reach an agreement at the end, maybe even go back to a barber. All of you. Disgusting diversion. Let me be absolutely frank. This drone of xenophobic narrative is a disgraceful diversion. We all know there is a war on the ground. Eskom gets blown up weekly, our rails are obliterated, our trucking industry has to fight to get through protests, water has run out, and all of this insurrection stuff is grossly underreported. We are told to believe that every bit of bad news in South Africa is because of a foreigner. Let's examine that. Are there lots of illegal people in South Africa? Yes, there are. Let's look at a couple of those illegals. Many are escaping hunger and poverty in Zimbabwe. It didn't happen last week. Zimbabwe has been degenerating over decades and decades. People have come here for a chance to eat through work. How did they get into the country if they are illegal? Well, we let them in. We took whatever bribe was appropriate and opened the gates. Some are refugees, sure. Some are here on legal documents, yes. Those documents may be legit, but in some instances, that legitimate document was paid for nefariously. Regardless, here we are. It didn't happen yesterday. It happened over tens of years. Why is it today's urgent action item? Why does Gayton McKenzie, and when I say that name, you know ridiculousness is about to follow. Gayton said that if a Zimbabwean was dying and was reliant on oxygen to get well, he would remove that oxygen and give it to a South African. He would literally murder the foreigners. He said that. Are you diverted yet? Of course you are. You're going to pay attention to these revolting, controversial comments. It makes riveting television. But so do the Kardashians, apparently. It's all nonsense. Gayton ain't working in no government hospital. Come on, focus. Those hawks are flying and swooping on hot collars. The presidential race is all that counts. This is just electioneering. Nothing to see here, folks. What this outrageous narrative does do is it awakens 70% of our unemployed youth to the fact that they could get a job if the foreigners weren't here. And so it ignites a fire. You can't start a fire without a spark. A major fire. A fire that causes bodies to rage when our guts want to vomit. A disgusting diversion. Monsieur Lakota was suspended and came back to work. That's sort of what we do here in South Africa. Not in real jobs, only in political jobs. Well, in some real jobs too. Old Mutual, I'm looking at you. Suspended President Cope goes back to work and calls a press conference. He tells us that they pushed him out because they believed he's not physically well enough to run the party. He goes on to explain that he's fit as a fiddle, and the next thing, bang! A scene out of a Rocky movie. Other COPE members could not cope with this insolence, so they stormed in, pulled off the mics and started throwing punches at each other, all on live TV. One of my favorite interviews this week was the legend Kathy Motlatlana when she questioned the presidency spokesperson Gungubele about Farmgate. She asked why the president had refused to answer the Reserve Bank's requests, and the spokesperson started to speak utter gibberish. He fumbled, pulled his body right away from the screen, and then mumbled something incoherent. Kathy didn't let him off, and she asked, "Is the president taking this seriously? Because how can you not know that the Reserve Bank have written to him repeatedly for answers?" Oh, it was funny. These guys are making it up as they go along. Enyombeni Tavern turned into Enyombeni Mystery, as 3 months later the toxicology report is back and apparently our 21 kids suffocated. Suffocated. What? 3 months ago, you told the parents that there were chemicals in the mouths of their children conducive of poisoning. At what point did they suffocate, you may ask, and how? Were they strangled? No, there were too many people in the tavern. What? Yes, they want us to buy this absolute excrement from a bull that at the expense of our children's graves. No, we have to draw a line, guys. It's time. I took to Twitter, the great truth revealer, and after frustrating digging, I found sense. Apparently, there was a bunch of ethanol in their mouths. That's basically alcohol. Wasn't there a new alcohol brand being released, and that's why there was that party? Why is there such a massive cover-up? Because even the families are not allowed to see the toxicology reports. Even the families. Are you kidding? WTA with the story. I can't. There is so much wrong here, and it smacks of a big corporate trying to peddle their wares on an unsuspecting market that went very wrong. This cover-up is an alcohol manufacturer, and with big clout, I can just feel it. That's my conspiracy theory. Nothing else makes sense. I'm surprised they didn't say that a taxi turned up with SADC parties who sucked air out of our children's lungs. Isn't this revolting? Okay, let's wrap this up because I'm getting depressed and this was meant to be funny, man. Zondo said that Parliament was able to stop state capture often and didn't. We finally saw some big arrests this week. My word, did I do a dance when Anuj Singh was handcuffed. I acknowledge Brian Malefe, but Anuj and his silly skipping walk has been on my grumble list for years. They nicked 340 million. That's how much they can prove they stole. The true number must be staggering. The Saxon world should be in king and his skipping chummy are finally behind bars. I wonder if Malefe's crying. One thing's for sure, Zuma must be seething. This is close to home, this Prasa arrest. Hold tight, my country. The wheel is actually turning. VBS issued summons on Zuma this week. This because of a default judgment of 6 million odd rand. And they said they're going to seize assets. I wonder how much that fire pool is worth. One thing we're all united in, hating Meghan Markle. Would you believe she wanted to come and hide out here in South Africa after her fisticuffs with the British monarchy? She said she wanted to be like Mandela. That was it. That was the death knell. Sack Meghan Markle. That was what was trending. Mandla Mandela pulled no punches as he told her, you don't get to be like Mandela. You can try to emulate his good work, but there is only one, and he's not vomiting nonsense on the Oprah Winfrey show. Take your own hot mess somewhere else. We have enough molten lava tanks. Thanks. Sack, Meghan. But comrades, I don't watch a lot of sport, but my cheer-up of the week has to be Kagiso Ndlovu proposing to his girlfriend Prudence live on TV after he finished the Great Run. She said yes, our Prudence, and a radio station gathered funding from ordinary South Africans to give them the wedding of their dreams. Aw, isn't that a nice way to end the week? Even if spring day was cold. Yes, it's a good story. Here's another good way to end the week. Last week I swam with a manta ray, graceful and magical and so far removed from the disgusting diversion. I'm going to see what the sea holds for me this weekend. Keep safe, focus on the goal, not the diversion. We are South Africans, we are extraordinary, and we will not be played. I'm Tonya Khoury, and you've scratched the surface with Acumen Media.